Hi everyone, welcome back to VEX, your robotics guide to excellence. In the past videos, I've briefly introduced the overview of the VEX competition and seasons. Well, today we're kicking off with a new series where we compare two of the main VEX competition categories, VEX IQ and VEX V5. What's the difference between them? You'll know when you watch this. And this is the first episode, so we'll cover over the general differences and what to expect in terms of preparation. In the next video, we'll talk about the differences in the actual competitions and the game design. So, if you are deciding which one to join, this might help you. And let's get started. First, let's talk about age distribution. VEX IQ is mainly for elementary and middle school students, while VEX V5 is for middle school and high school students. If you are in elementary or high school, the choice is pretty straightforward, but for middle schoolers, it really depends on your interest level and how much time you're willing to commit. And these two competitions are age-based, which means that you don't need to really be in a specific grade so that you can participate. Rather, it looks at your grade. Rather, it looks at your age. So when you are 9 to 15 years old at Worlds, you will be in VEX IQ, and if you are 15 to 19 years old at Worlds, you will be in VEX V5. So if you are wondering which category you can go to, it's always on the game manual of each competition. If you want a simpler entry into robotics, start with VEX IQ. If you are looking for more of a challenge and you have the time to put into competitions, then maybe VEX V5 would be better for you. So don't worry about starting with zero knowledge of robotics, because everyone literally starts there, and everything can be learned if you have passion and dedication. Now let's talk about team size. VEX IQ teams are usually smaller. The REC Foundation suggests an average of 4 to 6 members each team, and there is a minimum requirement of 2 students. Since the robot and the game designs are simpler, you won't necessarily need too many team members on your team, or else there will definitely be someone that doesn't know what they should be doing. And for VEX V5 teams, on the other hand, they are bigger. And REC Foundation suggests that there will be an average team size of 5 to 7 students with the minimum team member requirement as 1 student. So it's a little bit different from the VEX IQ, because VEX IQ requires you to driver switch between drivers. So the minimum requirement is 2, but for VRC, only 1 student is required on the drive team. However, sometimes teams are even bigger than that, because it only sets the limit for minimum and not for maximum. And it's because that robots are more complex and there's a lot of more work to do in building and programming in VEX V5. So if you like to work in larger teams, I think VEX V5 would be a better fit for you. Now, let's talk about the time commitment and the time required for each competition. From my experience, VEX V5 takes a lot more time than VEX IQ. While a VEX IQ robot can be built fastest in about a week, like I wrote it there, and a VEX V5 robot can take up to a month, and sometimes even longer if you cannot come up with ideas. So there are more brainstorming and thinking required before constructing and building the robot itself, and it costs more time. And that's just the building part. So there are also coding and driving practices that maybe take more time in V5, because the match time for the V5 competition are longer compared to IQ. So if you really have a packed school schedule, you might want to think about whether you can balance V5 with anything else. Because during my last year in Over-Under, I didn't do a really good job balancing my study and V5. So you might have to keep an eye on that. Now, let's break down how the robots are built. VEX IQ uses plastic beams that snap together with pins, as you can see in the picture, making it very easy to assemble and take apart. So it doesn't take a lot of time constructing and destroying your robot when you are moving on to the next generation. VEX V5, on the other hand, uses metal and aluminum parts, screws, and nuts. So building takes longer because you have to secure everything properly. If you like quick building and iterating fast, VEX IQ is great. But if you enjoy working with the more advanced structures and there are more possibilities in different mechanisms, you don't mind taking your time building, I think VEX V5 would be better for you. Moving on, the last part, which is the programming. The programming also makes a lot of difference, but overall the logic is the same, but it's just that the coding software or the coding environment is a bit different. VEX IQ uses VEX IQ code, which is beginner friendly, and you most likely use blocks to write, but you can also code in C++. Yeah, there are some options. But for VEX V5, there are way more options that you can think of. You can either code in blocks too, or you can use Python, C++, or other languages that supports VEX V5. You'll also be working with more sensors and automations in VEX V5. This is most obvious in brain ports. In VEX IQ, there are 6 on both sides with 12 ports in total, but on a VEX V5 brain, there are 10 on both sides, which is 20 in total. Also, there are extensions that can be used for connecting pneumatics on VEX V5 robots. So overall, V5 is a bit more complicated. So overall, VEX V5 is much more complex and time-consuming compared to VEX IQ. However, despite these differences, both competitions are super fun and enjoyable, so it's up to you to decide on it. I hope this video helped explaining the general differences between the two. In the next episode, we'll dive into the competition and match design differences, so don't forget to like and subscribe for more VEX content. This is IntroVEX, your robotics guide to excellence. See you next time. Bye bye!